Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I've got a really important episode for you today, so I want to ask that you please share this episode with your friends in the aesthetic industry. My guest Mandy and I are diving into a scope of practice conversation around what is happening right here in Maryland, but it's actually relevant for any aesthetic professional or anyone who employs estheticians in their practice. Now, right now, Maryland is going through some really significant scope of practice changes, and Mandy formed the Maryland Esthetician Alliance to lobby and ensure that the voice of the esthetician is heard as these changes are being considered. She's been very involved in the process, and rather than just sitting on the sidelines to watch the changes being made, she's stepping up and leading in a professional manner to make change. Now, we have the information around the bill hearings and dates linked up below this episode, as well as the link to the Maryland Esthetician Alliance and Mandy's Instagram linked up below. I want to encourage each of you to get involved and learn more about what's going on in your state. And I want to give a huge shout out to Mandy and all of the others who are stepping up to lead and educate on this very important topic. All right, let's go ahead and play that interview. All right, Mandy, welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I'm so excited to have you here and have a very, very important conversation for anyone that is a licensed esthetician. Big, big deal.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Okay, so you reached out a couple of months ago and wanted to bring to my attention that there was some changing of the scope of practice happening in Maryland for scope of practice for estheticians. And this is something that we're seeing across the country. It's been happening for several years. Some of it is great and some of it is not great. I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't believe that estheticians should be able to inject. I know that there are states that allow that and good for them. But each state gets to kind of understand and choose what the scope of practice of a provider should be. But in other states, there are very simple things that I believe should be in our scope of practice, such as chemical peels, that are being taken out of what we are legally able to do. And so you've decided to really kind of take some action and speak with the board and go through the formal process to address some of the things that are happening in Maryland, which is important. And I'm sure we're going to touch on that. But I'd really like to have an educational episode to let our listeners know, to let these licensed estheticians know, how do we find out about the laws that are changing and what do we do about it if there is something, like taking something as simple as chemical peels. And I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, it's in Maryland right now, they're taking them completely off, nothing to do with the pH.
Correct.
It's just completely no chemical peels.
Correct. Part of it is because they don't understand chemical peels. They're focused on glycolic acid, where they don't understand the pH changes it or the percentage. They want to throw percentages around. So because they didn't understand, they just took it right off the table. And we're like, this is just a no-no. So in April, they came out with the do's and don'ts.
And when you say they, this is
yes, the Maryland Board of Cosmetology. I think where this came from was because of COVID. A lot of the schools were virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And then the girls are graduating and not really knowing what the scope is. And so they're calling the board, can I dermoplane? Can I chemical peel? Because with Maryland, and this is probably similar to a lot of other states, the laws didn't match up with the regulations. So there was discrepancy there. Things weren't listed with detail. So it was hard when new things were coming out. Nothing's been improved since 1994 or something. How many new services have we been trained, certified, done since then? So that's where all the question was coming from, I think. And they were just, I think, hounding the board and like, can I dermaplane? Can I chemical peel? Well, what does it have to be? What about nano needling? What about micro needling, micro channeling? So I think they got together, wrote up the definitions, but Googled the definitions and didn't have an experienced individual doing this for them. So this is where I co-founded with 3 other women, estheticians in Maryland, the Maryland Esthetician Alliance, and we went through all the processes, and Caitlin did a lot of the legwork as far as website and research, and she's amazing. And we got this together and we're actually not, I don't want to say fight the board, because I feel like the board
I feel like it should be something we're working together with them.
Working together, and we're trying to understand each other. But now that legislature's in session, this is where we're pushing the bill through. So, and my thing is, I just want them to understand the definitions, the true definitions, and the details on each service, so that they can understand better, inspectors can inspect better, and understand all the things that we have in our rooms and things like that.
And with your communication with the board, you were able to, when they first released, the Maryland Board of Cosmetology was the organization that released the do's and don'ts list. Is that correct?
Correct.
And some of the things that were on the do's and don'ts list, you've been able to have reversed through clear communication with them. Yes. and educating. Okay, that's great.
So the board meetings are public, which I don't know other states if they have public board meetings. And we worked with them 2 months, I believe October, November, on clearing up the definitions and getting our points across for them to view. And I think we really helped in a lot of areas, but a lot of areas they were kind of hung up because they didn't understand.
Mm-hmm. So how is and forgive my ignorance on this topic, I should definitely look into it a little bit more, but how are these boards formed? Or if it's the Maryland Board of Cosmetology, if they're representing estheticians, shouldn't there be an esthetician or someone that understands what these services are?
Unfortunately, the Maryland State Board does not have a space for an esthetician on the board. You can be a consumer member, but other than that, and that's what we've put in the bill, that there should be an esthetician on the board at all times, a nail tech on the board at all times. Because if not everybody's going to understand what everybody else does. I don't understand hair. I don't know the chemicals. I don't know what it does to the scalp. I don't know those things. Mm-hmm. So having someone in that experience field up to date with what they're doing or the services is such a benefit. And so that's another thing that we're trying to get changed as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how did you first start to learn about these changes that were happening? Were you, because I imagine there's probably a lot of providers out there that, clearly if in Maryland they're calling to ask, these are individuals that want to follow the law. They want to practice within their scope. How are we finding out this information? Is there ways that we can be notified? Are there email lists that we should be on? Like, what is the process for an esthetician in their home state to learn and gather this information?
So unfortunately for us, it was kind of just launched on us in April. It was kind of like, I think it was March. There was a board meeting and they said that we need to discuss do's and don'ts for estheticians. And in April, they launched it. So there was, I think, over 200 estheticians on that call. and it was impressive, everybody that showed up. And to get the news that we got was devastating for us. And
So for that
so
call,
immediately
did you get an email, or how did you know that that call was happening?
I actually saw Crystal Bronner. I follow her on Instagram. She posted a video that kind of went viral,
Okay.
and saying, this is what's happening, be on the board call. So we all were just sharing it so that everybody could work together and see what was going to be the outcome for the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a formalized way that the actual board of cosmetology can communicate what these
Yeah.
changes are, or when these calls are happening, if
There absolutely is. I think an email sent out. I didn't get an email if there was one, but a formal email, just, hey, we need to discuss this. If you're interested in contributing, please be on this call. Other states, I don't know how they're going about it. I know New York's just lost a few things. California's been fighting for things. So, I mean, we're all estheticians, how we band together. So I'm in favor of maybe getting more of information from the boards to us.
Right.
But,
so what are the next steps in finding a working solution between the estheticians and the board? So I know you said this bill is going to be voted on. What's included in the bill? What are the next steps that are happening?
Okay. So the next steps that we took after they revised the new do's and don'ts, we didn't get everything that we were asking. We compromised on a few things. But what we did was we employed a lobbyist, started trying to do fundraisers, raise money to pay the lobbyist. And he helped us, his name's Sid Saab, and he helped us formulate a bill. With all of us working together, we decided what estheticians needed. We asked for input from other estheticians. We're always putting stuff on the website to get help. But so we're doing the bill right now. What's included in the bill are the things like microchanneling to a certain depth, like what's some of the things I have it here? Ultrasonic skincare therapy. I laugh, but it's so sad. It's like makes me so anxious. Botox, obviously, we're not doing. Things like manual lymphatic drainage. Mm-hmm. So we worked with a lawyer from the Attorney General as well. He was representing the Board of Cosmetology, but he helped us find the fine line between the Board of Massage and medical. Mm-hmm. So what the board was saying, that we needed a health occupation license, but not telling us what the health occupation license was that we needed. They didn't know. And also, not only the health occupation license, but then everybody was asking about medical directors. Mm-hmm. And they're not even kind of approving medical directors. And we're in talks with the president, I believe, of MedChi. And he was like, what you guys are doing is, appropriate. And so this is where we're trying to find clear lines, clear boundaries between the medical portion and the aesthetic portion. So I think that gets mixed sometimes.
It does. And it's so different based on every state of, I think the most basic understanding is estheticians work in the epidermis, and as long as you can stay in the epidermis. But, I've lived in a lot of different states, and it's, if you have a doctor on site, this is what you can do. And if you have, so there's, and you have states like California that there's, okay, you can do chemical peels, but as long as they're this pH, or you can do microchanneling as long as you don't go deeper than this. So there's clear boundaries of what that looks like.
That was the other thing that we were trying to educate. Like we were basically trying to educate the board. It's like doing a 9-month class in 2-hour meetings. And so we're trying to educate them. We showed them the layers of skin and that there was so many layers in the epidermis and all those things. And it just wasn't computing. And we would say what layer that these things would work in and like stratum corneum, all those things. But in their minds, stratum corneum was it. Like that's the first layer. But really it's the epidermis that we can work in. So
and that was the reasoning for taking chemical peels off?
What's that?
Was that the reasoning for not allowing chemical peels?
We didn't get a clear reason. It was, I think, more of not understanding the whole process of chemical peels.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So where can people go to find more information? If you're a Maryland esthetician, you definitely want to check out your alliance that you have. But if you're in any other state, are you just recommending that they get in touch with their state board?
Yeah, absolutely. NCEA has a really good grasp on a lot of the state regulations, laws, those types of things. And they're really good at, helping educate on that area. I think going right to the board, it depends on what kind of, like how educated the board is though, because someone might say, yeah, you can dermaplane, and somebody else might call and they say no, or it's a gray area. Well, if it's a gray area, what are we going to do as estheticians? Like we're going to do it. You know what I mean? But just clear, concise regulations, laws, I would go to the board. And if things aren't going that in favor of estheticians, you might want to look at building an alliance within the state. It's good to have that anyway, I feel like, just to keep an eye on everything and keep things fair. So
very good.
Answer your question.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And I think it's important for us all to really be involved and aware in knowing, because if you are, I know for myself, when I left Hawaii and when I met Kyle, my husband, and knew that he was active duty military and that we were going to be moving, which we ended up moving 12 times in a variety of different states, I had always kind of grown up in the world of medical. And so I was always used to practicing with a derm or with a plastic. And so if I ended up in a state that had more strict regulations, it would greatly affect my income because of the services that I was doing. And I personally didn't want to take that risk. And so I, chose entrepreneurship, which was the right path for me. But this is something that if a service, which in my opinion seems pretty standard across the board, which is chemical peels, is all of a sudden taken away, that can greatly impact your livelihood and your business that you've built, and I understand putting regulations around pH for sure. But if you're just completely taking it, are you also taking away retinoids? Are you also taking away, these topical skincare ingredients that have acids in them? It's really challenging to help these individuals to earn a livelihood, which contributes to their families and their households and their communities. It's just a thing that we all need to be aware of.
Yeah. It can create a huge mess, so yeah, you just need to be very educated in what's happening in your state, stay in the know, definitely keep up with the board meetings if they're public, which they should be, and don't be afraid, don't fly under the radar. Don't be afraid to talk to the board. of course, they have inspectors, they send out inspectors. It's actually one of the things that really got us going in the beginning, because we had this meeting in April and my friend Sabrina was inspected the next day and got cited for glycolic, which we didn't even know. Like, glycolic on our shelf, like that you can probably buy, you know.
Mhm.
So this is what really ignited a lot of it. So just be in the know of what's going on in the board. And you don't have to sit on every single board meeting, but at least get on 2 or 3 a year so you know what's going on. Read the notes. They usually send out, you can look at the notes on the website. Don't be afraid to ask questions to them.
Yeah. Well, we will include all important links below this episode so that you guys can do your own research and get involved. That's how it works.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here and for sharing. This is a really important topic.
Yes, for sure.